How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. I hope you guys are doing well today. Thank you so much for stopping in. Today, we're going to kind of break down and propose a question to the podcast, kind of a question that's going around the media, around Chiefs Kingdom, and definitely going around inside the organization. So as you guys know, Rashee Rice, a lot have been made of him recently. So as we know, he had already he pled guilty to his involvement in that multi-car crash back in 2024. And due to that, he is been sentenced to 30 days in jail and given 5 years of probation. The 30 days in jail can be spent, I believe, anytime during that 5 years of probation. So that's a given. But going into the NFL aspect of things, we recently found out on Thursday that, according to Adam Schefter, that Rashee Rice and his NFL hearing will be held on September 30th, meaning that almost a full month into the regular season for the Kansas City Chiefs and the National Football League as is. But that has brought up a question. And before I get into more details, I want to propose the question, and then I'll go into more. Which we know that Rashee Rice is going to get suspended, but what time frame is best for him as well as best for the Chiefs? If they do not come to an agreement beforehand, before the start of the regular season, Rashee Rice would go towards the September 30th date and while the NFL has had proposed a lengthy amount of games missed due to suspension, double digits, some say, his attorney and the players union, they stepped in for that. And said, it's very hard to kind of give a verdict to something that's never happened before, not in terms of lives in danger, but specifically what we've seen during the season and during the waypoint of an NFL season. That's typically when those suspensions happened for guys who had been wrong for tested positive for drugs, like drug testing during the week. So they would get suspended, or their actions in a game. However, this scenario, if it being on September 30th, that hearing, Rashee Rice would be available to play for the Kansas City Chiefs to kind of kickstart their season. Now, I want to preface that I don't have an opinion either way on which way it should lean, how it should either be given to him in the beginning portion of the season, or if he should wait until after those 4 weeks, depending on how long that suspension period is. But I do propose the question because I want to hear some feedback from you guys. So make sure you can always follow me over on X as at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. I say that at the end of my podcast all the time. But so the breakdown, though, is some people think that, or so the news is, the words are that Rashee Rice being suspended late or having the ability to play at least the first 4 weeks of the NFL campaign, is that helping the Chiefs, or is that a underlying way of the NFL trying to rig the system, quote unquote, again? Or is it is that beneficial for Rashee Rice and the Chiefs? Think about it this way. I broke down a lot about the wide receiving room for the Kansas City Chiefs. Highly competitive, a lot of young guys, a lot of speed. Rashee Rice, he missed a lot of time last season due to injury, which saw several other players kind of step up and look for their spot on this roster. While they didn't necessarily become or reach the same type of level that Rashee Rice individually does, it is a thought process that the Chiefs have to consider. They're going to go into this season at some point with Rashee Rice being suspended. While it might not be double digits, it could very well be at least 8 games. Who knows? But would you rather, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, would you rather have Rashee Rice start the season through the first 4 weeks, then get suspended, and say hypothetically he gets suspended until week 12, week 13? Then you have to pick him up again in hopes that he can become a top wide receiver in the offensive scheme. Keep in mind, when healthy, from what we've seen, Rashee Rice, he is one of the best wide receivers that the Chiefs have on this organization. I mean, easily the best. But does that pose an issue for Rashee Rice if he starts the season, then he's suspended, and then he joins the season again? I say that because there's only so much that you can do on the in a training sense by yourself, because I'm assuming he wouldn't have any access to the facility and all that, or he wouldn't be able to keep his reps in with the boys if you got suspended. Trying to stay up to speed during the NFL while you're missing time, while even the defenders, they know that they're getting ready, they're fine-tuning their stuff, they are going to not miss a lot of things that they would miss in the beginning portion of the season. Like there's some rough patches that every team faces at some point in the season. Even the playoff contenders, they do, whether it's early or middle. Or is it better for Rashee Rice to get his suspension, if that does happen, come to an agreement before the start of the season, then get suspended before the first week against the Los Angeles Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil? I've heard a lot of people discuss the possibility as like, oh, they just want Rashee Rice there to boost ratings. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, as we've talked about before, the Kansas City Chiefs, they have the most primetime games in the National Football League this year. With or without Rashee Rice, they're going to get their ratings. While it might be more difficult for them to win without their best wide receiver being active, they're still going to draw a crowd. That's why they're in this position. They are the team in the AFC, and they have been the NFL's team, their form of a dynasty, since Patrick Mahomes has kind of taken over at the quarterback position. All in all, there's two ways that this could go down. One, you suspend Rashee Rice right now or the beginning portion of the season, then he comes back midway through. That would give the Chiefs an opportunity to kind of see what they've got with other wide receivers and see if there's a play-out feel that they could make do without. And then once they get him back, then they can take things up a notch and kind of steamroll for the postseason. Or Rashee Rice gets the first 4 games that he is able to play. Then he has his hearing on the 30th, and that verdict could definitely still be close to double-digit numbers of a suspension. Then you're risking Rashee Rice missing the playoffs. Would you rather have the Kansas City Chiefs, if you're in their position? I want to know your opinion. Please, please, please. I do really want to know your thoughts on this. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, would you rather have Rashee Rice miss the beginning portion of the season and play in the playoffs, or play in a handful of games to begin the year, then get suspended for an X amount of time, still trying to get his wits about himself and trying to stay active and up to the level of an NFL player while not being able to go live against certain defenders in the National Football League, and then miss or come back and make the playoffs and help the Chiefs? I really do want to know what you guys think. I think that it's a ever-evolving topic that kind of needs to reach a verdict sooner rather than later, just to kind of ease his mind. You got to keep in mind, guys, Rashee Rice is still a young guy. It could definitely still be weighing on him. While he does say, he's still going about him and that he has learned from his mistakes from X, Y, and Z. There's still a lot of weight that's being held of the situation. That anytime that his name is brought up, it's held to a negative point. Oh, suspension? When's it going to happen? I think we should try to be as sympathetic as we can to the situation from his standpoint. But with that being said, as I said earlier, be sure to follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs as we get closer to the regular season. You can also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI over on X, where all of our stories get published exclusively for you for free. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is a place to get your Kansas City Chiefs news. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I am Dominic Minchella. Be kind to one another, and I will see you